Hey you guys, it's Moonlander back with another horror movie review. And today we're going to be looking at the new documentary called Demon House.
Got the keys to the demon house. You think it's dangerous for me to be in that house?
I wouldn't be there.
She had holes in both her wrists, it's like little cuts.
They called 911.
They called 911.
They did.
There was an unidentifiable voice. I only heard it on the recording.
Who in there?
Now this is written and directed by Zak Bagans from Ghost Adventures.
I'm Zak Bagans. I'm one of the world's leading researchers on ghosts and demonology. And this film is cursed.
Now, I'm not real familiar with the show. I've only watched what's available on Netflix. And they only have like select episodes or highlight shows. But anyway, yeah, anytime I tried watching this show before, I just found it off-putting. I found it to be really fake. And I never could get into it. But I stuck with what was on Netflix, and I did grow to like this Zak Bagans guy in some way. So anyways, Demon House starts off with a warning. And it warns you that this documentary may not be suitable for all audiences. And then it warns that demonologists say that demons can attach to you through people, things, or even electronic devices. So, yeah, they're definitely trying to scare you before you even start watching this. In the IMDb description of the movie says Zak Bagans documents the most authenticated case of possession in American history. And I don't know who came up with that or if it's true. I do know, even from reading about stories of events that took place that are in this documentary in the news, and the documentary shows news clips involving stories about this house.
A story about a demon possession makes international news.
Now look at one of the most documented cases of demon possession and exorcism in recent history.
The next day, over the phone, I buy the house, sight unseen.
So, I guess that's what they mean by that it was in the news. And he does an introduction while this documentary starts, and he says how it took 3 years to finish this film. During the filming of it, he had people quit his crew, people become ill, and there was even claims that this house was home to over 200 demons. So the introduction of this house and everything at the beginning of the movie really gets you amped up for what's gonna happen. And as the documentary goes on, he interviews police officers that had visited the house on calls, whether it be with Child Protective Services or whatever. Now the family that lived in this house while this possession that everybody was interested in took place happened amongst all of the children living there. So he does interview a Child Protective Service woman that was involved with these children and this family. And now he interviews the uncle of these children, but not the children themselves or their parents, because they refuse to talk to him. And it says it's because he's been in this house that he has bought. Then you get various other interviews, with crew, doctors and whatnot. And he even, when he buys this house, there's squatters living in it, and he interviews them as well. And he states in this documentary that he wants to prove whether or not the whole demon house thing, if it's a hoax or not. And he hires even an inspector to look for mold and, to find out if that could have any effect on the people living in its minds. So there is some sort of effort in this documentary to see whether it's a hoax or not. And then it finally ends with him boarding himself in this house overnight alone. So the things I liked about Demon House is having read stories of occurrences that are in this documentary made it watching it fun, because there was his point of view on these events that happened, from him buying this house to the couple that was featured on Ghost Adventures that were involved with a murder-suicide, and then finally this destruction of this house that he bought. And I mean, overall, I just thought it was a really entertaining documentary to watch. But for me, the reason why is probably not why they wanted people to find this documentary interesting and entertaining. And that leads me into the things I did not like about Demon House. So the first thing I have to say is nothing in this documentary made me believe that any of what was said about this demon house is true. And now the various times throughout this documentary, the camera is on Zak Bagans and his crew, and there was multiple times where I felt like they were acting poorly. So it's just really hard to buy for me. And all of the stories that are provided by the Child Protective Services, the police, or the squatters that lived in the house, all of them, while I wanted to believe they were true, nothing about them made me believe they were true. And in fact, when he first talks to the squatters, it's a husband and wife. And now the wife tells him that they haven't experienced nothing. And later the husband goes up to him and says, oh yeah, he's got some shit that he can tell him. But then he starts talking about getting paid for it and saying how what he's offering isn't beans to what Inside Edition was offering the family. So you also get in this documentary that's supposed to make you believe in this demon house, they reveal, I don't know if they realize what they're doing, there's a lot of money talk involved, and come to find out, they want you to think that the family won't talk to him because he's been in this house and they're afraid something's attached to him. But I think it was because they were already in talks with getting a movie made about their story, and they even play a phone recording of a movie producer upset with this Zak Bagans guy because they think he's interfering with their movie. And I found it to be all suspicious to whether any of it was real. And there's nothing shown, no interview that convinced me at all that any of this was real. I'm sorry, I just think this is all purely entertainment as far as what they've done for this documentary. Which, that's my feelings on the show as well. From what I have seen of it, it's goofy and it's really hard to swallow. And now, the scenes where I could tell that this Zak guy was acting, or his crew, I mean, they're goofy. Like, there's a part where he has this doctor doing some sort of reading in the basement of this house, and the house is getting to this Zach guy, and then he all of a sudden like lunges at the doctor like he's gonna attack him. And I mean, I couldn't help but laugh because it looked ridiculous. And then there's a extended scene of one of the cameramen like losing his cool, and they're in the hotel and he's cussing at something that nobody else can see in the elevator, and he's become so angry he quits and refuses to work on this documentary anymore. I guess because he was being visited by a 12-foot goat man or something. I don't know. And then toward the end, when he locks himself and boards the windows and doors and he stays overnight in this house, I will have to admit, I thought it was scary, like just that the chance something was really gonna happen. And now something does, but still it's not gonna, sway you into finally believing, oh wait, there is something in this house. And in fact, that reminds me, the one thing you do see on camera, when I initially saw it, I'm like, oh, the cameraman sticking his fingers in the shot, and but no, it was an anomaly that was only there for a fraction of a second, and it's a black blob because they slow it down and show you, and then that's all you ever see throughout this whole documentary. There's supposedly a incident of one of the possessed children walking backwards up the side of a wall, but of course it's not been filmed, but they interview people who saw it. And then besides that anomaly in the camera shot, you do get some voices, stuff like you would hear on the show, which is just too easy to fake that it just drew away. It just added to my disbelief when they were playing these audio recordings. So my final thoughts on Demon House is, if you're a fan of the show and you believe that this stuff on the show is real, you're probably gonna love this movie. If you like the show at all, I mean, you gotta see this movie. Or if you're a weirdo like me and enjoy watching people pretend that something paranormal is happening, you'll love this movie too. And that's why I have to say, like, I found it entertaining and I enjoyed watching it, but it was only because I found it amusing what they were doing. And while I didn't believe any of it, I just found it super entertaining to watch these people do this. It's just fascinating to me. The type of person, from what I could tell, would just put this all on for this documentary or a show. I mean, I find it interesting that there's people like that would do that. So if you're not like me and find the fakeness of this type of thing entertaining, or you're not a fan of the show and do believe that these things are real, you're probably not going to like it, and you should probably just skip it. But I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10 because I did enjoy myself. And I mean, it is a thorough documentary. It's just thoroughly fake as well. Alright, you guys, I'll see you on the next review.